Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this interview chat channel thing I got going on. Today, I'm super excited for the first interview of 2021. We have Bethany Cora Taylor, who is a Life Empowerment Nutritionist, dirt dweller, dog mom, author, outdoor activist, and espresso lover. And she helps women find freedom with food, exercise, as well as the written thing I have cuts off, and adventure, empowers them to eat for life, encourages them to do hard things bravely, and helps them live a life they are damn proud of. Bethany, thank you for doing this with me. The stuff that happened behind the scenes was time zone stuff and technology stuff, so super appreciative for you to be on with me right now.
Thank you for your patience and being accommodating and doing all the technology shenanigans that I will not touch with a 10-foot pole because I don't know how. So thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here. And from the bio, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I love playing on dirt with 2 wheels, 2 feet. And then I love also just helping women learn how to properly feed themselves and to do a lot of unlearning and relearning just based on the myths and things we've been told we have to do, should do to be worthy or beautiful or whatever it may be since we were like 13 years old. So I'm here to really just kind of like shatter all of the boxes and ceilings that women have been put in and under and just show them where they can go in life when they just lean into feeding themselves and doing all the things that they want to do.
Love it, love it. And just like to let the viewers know kind of how we got in touch, I've been following you. Probably time travel like flies differently in my mind, but like
Vortex.
yeah, probably at 2 years now, because when I first started my nutrition coaching business, I was really looking for some sort of like mentorship and just people online who I really resonated with. And you were one of those people. And we've chatted before, and you supported me in one of my early phases of business, and such great advice just from a business standpoint, but what you do and help women with from the food standpoint too, it just like all blends together so beautifully. And how you approach interacting with people, I think it just, I can't kind of emphasize this enough, is so empowering. And it's so it makes me, and made me feel, and makes others feel like they can do hard things, like it says in your bio. And just kind of dive into the first thing I want to talk about, which is super exciting. It's your new book, Down and In. And if you don't mind, I want to read just two little quotes from there.
Do it. I want to hear which ones you chose.
Yes. So kind of tying into the theme of doing hard things, the first quote says, "Do the uncomfortable work. It's where the purest of growth happens." And the second one is, "The universe puts you in front of things you are capable of doing." And the reason why I think these two quotes resonate with me the most is because for me, and I think when navigating my own relationship with food and my body and fitness, the thing that kind of gets in my way the most is feeling like I'm not good enough or capable enough. And I think that's something that I've seen in my own clients and just talking to family and friends. It's, we don't feel like we're capable of doing things. And so that can hold us back. And where the work needs to be done, like your first quote, is where it's where you're uncomfortable. And that can be really scary. And so I guess my first question for you is, how do you, for yourself, navigate uncomfortable situations, and how do you help others deal with the really uncomfortable things that come with improving one's relationship with food in their body?
Man, how long do we have? That's what I want to know. I could literally talk about this for like 10 decades, but I will start with saying that at the beginning, we're all going to be really uncomfortable and we're probably going to suck at it. For example, anytime I onboard a new client, most of them come to me with a weight loss goal. Okay, awesome. I'm honoring their goal. However, I'm going to do the really uncomfortable thing as a coach to tell a client, and what their goal is cool. I'm honoring that. However, we are going to pretty much go against the grain of what society has told us. So in most circumstances, something that's uncomfortable and that comes with relationship with food, being well fed, is eating more food. So that's an example of, I tell people that and they're just mind blown. They're like, wait, I have to do what? I'm allowed to do what? And tying into that is giving ourselves permission to do really uncomfortable and hard things, and knowing at the beginning it's going to be super messy and it's going to be uncomfortable likely. But when we have that growth is when we take that first step outside of our comfort zone. There's always that quote of like, there's growth happens outside of your comfort zone. That's so true. As like cliche as that sounds, it is so true, because we cannot grow if we're constantly allowing the pressures of society or other people's expectations hold us back. And we almost have to live a fear-led life, in the way that if we do things that are fearful or scary, that is where we just become that's where we continue to become authentically ourselves, and where we can have that growth. Because if we just follow the footsteps of these people in front of us that tell us we should do this, or we have to do it that way, how are we supposed to blaze our own trail? How are we supposed to do things that we, in our unique body and soul and mind, how can we do those things that work for us? And that's uncomfortable. And just kind of tying back to your relationship with food and exercise, is we almost have to unhook and release our grip on things we've been told since we were teenagers, that has just been embedded in our heads when it comes to our bodies, body image, beauty standards, weight, exercise, and nutrition. All of that has been crafted for us by someone else. And when we want to craft our own standard and expectation of what it means for us to be living this big life, it's really hard, and it takes time. Like, it's not going to take 3 months. It's probably going to take years of just unsexy, gritty internal work. That's hard conversations. And it starts with giving yourself permission to not be good at something at the beginning, and just navigate it and just get your hands in and get super messy. But the beauty that comes out of that is it just pays itself over tenfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many good points. And I think,
There's a lot.
yeah, and to just pull some things out from there, one of them is the timeline of when you're starting to do this work. It can be really tempting for people to like get to that 3-month mark and I put in time that's beyond the typical like 30 days. They're saying, hey, I'm doing the harder work because I'm not like following the 30-day challenge. I'm pushing the boundaries more, but then when they don't see the results from their own pushing of the boundaries, they're like, oh, like something's wrong with me. But it's like you said, we have to kind of get past and release the grip on like the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, and almost just sit in that messy place. You talk about kind of like that zone of the mess and in the gray zone of nutrition and life, and kind of embracing that. And the power of having a coach to do that, because it's so messy. I think it might be important to emphasize, or see what you think of this, how it's not that people can't do it themselves. It's that sometimes there's just so much, and like people are like, we're human, we have jobs and relationships and so much going on, that to have somebody who's really invested in the process and can kind of just show you the way like you do can be so valuable. So when this lifelong process keeps happening, it's, you have those tools that you give people.
Absolutely. So to kind of, we'll circle back a little bit. So sexy sells. So when someone sees a 12-week, whatever challenge, diet result, we can guarantee that, excuse my French, but like, that's all bullshit, because no one can guarantee that. And yes, it may work for this temporary period of time, and then you end up right where you left off. And usually in a worse quote worst place because you're just disappointed and you're like, well, I did all this thing. I did exactly what I was supposed to do, but it wasn't sustainable. And we are, as humans, we're like easy, cool. It's right here listed for me. And it's quick, it's fast, it's instant. No one, I mean, some people are okay at the beginning with doing like the steadfast work of like, my clients are with me for a year, 2 years, because it just takes so much time. It takes experiencing things, moving through it, honoring yourself, how you get through it. Then the next time you have that skill to take with you, when a similar thought pattern or event happens, you're like, oh, I figured it. Oh, I remember last time I felt this way. Look at me now. And I also don't think that people cannot do it. They absolutely can, but there's so much information out there and it's daunting. It can be it's like paralysis. You just become paralyzed with, well, I was told this is how I was supposed to do it, and I did everything perfectly, but I didn't get to said place, or I don't look a certain way. So having a coach, like, and I absolutely understand it's a financial investment, but it gives you a good coach, a high quality coach that you really resonate with, and that they care about their clients and they don't have 800 million clients. And it's not a templated thing. Like, you need someone to invest in you, in your heart, your soul, your life, because if you use a templated whatever in any area of life, like, how is that accustomed to you? Like, what if you have 3 kids? What if you're a single mom? What if you're a CEO of a job? What if you travel every weekend? You have to make it work for your life. And having a coach or having someone to be by you for, say, a year or 2 years, investing in that is important, because you have a sounding board too. You have someone that has your best interest in mind, and that you can, like, if something is really hard, if you see your body changing, if you're not feeling super great, if you run into this encounter of this conversation about whatever that's really uncomfortable, you can settle back into leaning into your coach or whoever your therapist, whoever it is. Like, I think that's important too. Therapy is super important. You can lean into them to have that person to reflect on. And as coaches, we don't do all the work for you. We're going to give you the tools, and I'm going to ask you to do homework. Hey, pull this apart. Why did that trigger you? Why was that such a big deal for you? Why do you feel this way? Because of X, Y, or Z. And a lot of it comes back to, man, I have to look at the last 10 years of my life, and having someone there to just be, to celebrate with you too, because most people are doing incredible things in their life, but they're not celebrating those things because we're not told that they're good enough to be celebrated. And I did a post on this. I had a client who said, well, I'm not going to see that. No one sees the hard work I'm doing, because her body wasn't getting smaller. She wasn't getting abs. She was literally working on improving her relationship with food. And that came down to the conversation she had with herself and giving herself permission to enjoy ice cream without even batting an eye. And no one sees that, and it's not talked about enough, but like, that's a massive win in her book. And I celebrated that so deeply with her, because that for her was mountain moving. But to society, like, oh, you just ate ice cream, like whatever. Or some people like, oh, you can't have ice cream. I'm like, dude, I eat ice cream every night, and it makes my life awesome because I love it. So there's a lot of benefit that comes with the coach, or doing the work on your own and having some sort of accountability system with people who align with your goals. And like, can I keep going?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
I'm like, let's go. I got more.
It.
Something to social media, it's incredible. It brought you and me together. It brought some really incredible relationships that I have with people that have become dear friends of mine that I meet in real life. And I'm like, I was literally meant to be with you. Like, you were my human. And social media, beautiful. However, it can become a black hole. And there is a lot of things on there that are extremely toxic and that jump on attacking vulnerabilities of women, particularly that's who I work with. That's kind of why I talk about them a lot. And making us feel a certain way so that they can sell their product or they can take your money. They're going to prey on that. It's the diet, whatever industry is billions and billions of dollars, and they're going to do everything to get you hooked and make you feel like you have a problem body area, or you have an issue. When in fact, they created that problem. It's not even a thing. Like, oh, get rid of your muffin top. I'm like, what? Like, what is that? Like, eat a muffin instead. Like, what are we talking about here? That's not even a thing, but they made it a thing so that you can, oh my God, I have one.
Yeah.
Oh man, I definitely need to do this detox or this challenge to get rid of it. But then cool, you do it, you feel miserable, you miss it on date nights, you don't have cake at your own birthday, and then you're right back to being pissed off when it's not your fault. It was the sexy thing that they preyed on you for. So social media, number one advice, and what I wanted to get out of me ranting on this rabbit hole was scrub your social media feed, and anything you see that causes you to think, man, I wish I looked like that, or a goal body, or man, I wish I have cellulite and she doesn't have any. Like, get rid of that, unfollow it, follow more people who are advocates for feeding your body, who are advocates for getting stronger, moving in a way that you love, and follow more therapists. Follow more people, poets and writers that you read stuff. You're like, I felt that in my soul. Like, I needed that in my life. You should look at your social media feed, because we all look at it, and be just so elated and lit up and just stoked on life and wanting to just do all these big things versus wanting to retract and go back into a hole and just feel really awful about this beautiful body of yours that is deemed unbeautiful by society.
Yes. Like, I just want to take that, like, what you just said in there and be like, just blast it at everybody's like, here, everybody who was ever told like their body wasn't good enough. Just let's listen to this.
It felt really good, so I kept going. So I apologize.
That is, you do not need to apologize. This is people, I asked you to be here and you accepted, which I'm so grateful for, so people could hear your message. And I think just to kind of flow into just your book again, because it's so new, and that's what you just said at the end. It's your book is how it makes me feel those things. It makes me feel empowered, like I'm capable, like, and it separates me from social media, because a lot of these messages you do share on social media, but to have it in a tangible book, to feel it, and you even say it in like the intro, like write in it and like live with it and all of that stuff. It's just the message translates differently, I find. And so to that point, how did you begin this baby, which is a big question? So you know, and what motivated you to compile it in this format, because you do share this message and the messages in here alone.
So twofold. We'll start with, I chose a hard copy book because I wanted you to get off social media, even though I share a lot on social media and it serves its purpose, but I wanted you to have a book in your hand that you can touch, feel, you can write in it, you can dog ear, bird. I was thinking of
some sort of animal thing.
I was thinking of yard bird, like a chicken. I don't know. It's been a day. Dog ear the pages and rip pages out. I want you to write notes, and I put a couple pages in the back for journaling. I want you to pass it down to your kids. Buy copies for people you love. And I wanted something to be tangible so that it can live forever. So that's why I chose doing a book and also not an Audible or an ebook. I wanted you to read it and like look at it and process it. That was a personal decision on my point. Some people love Audibles and reading it on like Kindles and stuff, but I wanted like a book in people's hands. Mm-hmm. So that was why I chose that, and how it came to fruition. So I wrote about it briefly in the introduction of the book. When I was 10, I think I like started a mini poem book, and I got like one page done. And I've always loved quotes growing up. I wrote them on my walls. Like my mom and dad let me like paint things on the walls of quotes. I always saved them, screenshotted them in my phone. I wrote them down. Like I have binders of quotes. I do well with quotes because they're short and punchy. You read them, you're like, okay, wow, like my stomach churned when I read that. Like it like made my heart drop. Like that was powerful. There's so much beauty in written word. And I've always really enjoyed writing as well. I think that's why I grabbed onto social media or Instagram, because it's a way to outlet my mission, my voice and all of that. And then fast forward 10 years, I am 28 going on 29, and I wrecked my mountain bike in June of 2020. And it really kind of opened my eyes to things. And with being my shoulder bummed out, dislocated, partially torn labrum, like a bunch of janky stuff, I was forced to, one, become more efficient with my time, and two, kind of shift how I did things. And I had this like really big pull from the universe of like, hey, Bethany, there's something out there for you. And I couldn't tell what it was. Like it was for like, I was, even though that gnarly thing just happened, the universe was like, Bethany, there's something bigger waiting for you, and it's here, it's close. And I had a call with my friend Hannah, who's my old business coach, and we talked about options. And like that day after, I was like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do it. So I opened up a Word document and I started just writing quotes. I had some that I pulled from old posts. And then as I was writing more, I just started free flowing. And then obviously I came up with the title, and I worked with a graphic designer for everything. And then Down and In came to fruition. And it, like, again, at the beginning of things, like this is a prime example. I was like, who am I to write a book? Like I'm Bethany. Like I live here in Tennessee with my husband and my dog. We're just regular old people, like just living our best lives, like playing on the trails, climbing mountains. And I'm like, wait, I'm going to write a book. And I was paralyzed at the beginning. I was like, I don't have the capability, the talent, anything to do that. And I was like, you know what? Yes, I do. So I did it. And like, it took getting over that massive fear of judgment, failure, or not being good enough to realize that like I knew I actually needed to do that because of that fear was there. So I was fear led, and I chased that fear, and I looked in the eyes, and I was like, I'm going to do this thing. And I wrote a book, and anyone can do it. And I literally did it. Hello, just me over here. I wrote a book, and that's me encouraging other people. And like, that's tied in the book too. The quotes of that they range from body image to talking about being outdoors, to doing hard things, to shattering ceilings and boxes that were being like, it's pretty aggressive at some points, because I definitely cuss in it. Sorry, Mom. But it helps punch. So yeah, the book is everything. I know the book is everything I do in coaching, which is a lot, and it's a wide range. I don't really have one like special niche. I kind of do a little bit of everything. It's me in a book format. And I hope that those books just get like passed down to people, and that the people who get them, that it's exactly like what they need in their life at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for, like following that fear and creating this for so many people, because I think it's really going to help a lot of people, because like you, I love quotes, and I agree, like they just have so much power in them, and they punch, and they make your heart stop, and all those things. And sometimes you can just come back to those little quotes in times of need, and they serve their purpose, and they can transform in each different situation and scenario, right? It's like, oh, this meant something to me in that moment, but it means something totally different in this moment. And that's so beautiful.
For sure.
Yeah.
And to like on that, I think we're allowed to change. Not only like our bodies are allowed to change, like give ourselves permission to have our bodies change across the course of our lifespan, but our opinions, our thoughts, how we view things, like that's allowed to change, and it should change, because we're always evolving. We're always meeting new people. We're always challenging why we think some way. So like you said, each quote you may read it in 6 months, you may pick that book back up and be like, wow, this actually resonates deeper now because I'm further along on my journey of whatever it may be. Or I remember when 6 months ago, I was afraid to do that thing, like write that book or go on that run or join whatever, a book club. Like I was afraid to do that. And now I'm so glad I did it. Okay, what's the next hard thing,
Yeah. It's kind of like little, what's it called? Like checkmark or checkpoints in your life where you can kind of come back to and be like, yeah, I did the hard thing kind of thing. So,
yeah, like little timelines and like little anchors. Yeah.
exactly. So multi-use there.
All about it. Functionality.
Yeah. So to make sure I'm still respecting your time, I really would love for you to kind of talk about your 50K recently, because again, like all of your messages, doing hard things, shattering ceilings, pushing your own boundaries, it's just like your life you embody those things in your life, which is it helps the people that are following you, and I'm sure your clients just like feel even more empowered to do those things when they see somebody like you're like, hey, I can do it, or you can do it, I can do it too. So how did you get into your 50K ultra running journey?
Great question. So, and real fast before I kind of get into that, I share what I do on social media, not for followers, not for attention, not for likes or anything like that. Is it awesome to have a bigger following because you can touch more people? Yes. But what matters is the quality of your audience and your following. So you can have 2,000 followers and just have such high quality relationships. That's what matters. But I share what I do to show people that anything is possible. Yes, it took a lot of hard work for my 50K, a lot of time, but I shared the process along the way to show people that it's not all hearts and flowers and rainbows and unicorns. There was most of the time in my training, I did not want to go for a run, plain and simple. But I knew I had to do that hard thing because I was training for something really big, and that required, and I knew going into it what it would require of me. So long story short, before I go into 50K, I share everything. And for the sheer fact of I'm a human being, and I want to show other people that you can do whatever you set your mind to. And it may not be a 50K at first. It may be a 5K. Do like 3 5Ks. Man, I feel good. I feel strong. Let's bump it up. Let me do a 10K. Let me do a half. And then you progress from there. So that's just an example. But any big goal we have, we can bite-sized chunk it before to grow and build to that big thing.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, with the 50K, so I'm not a runner. I played soccer growing up, and I've always just like weightlifted. So CrossFit, powerlifting, all that fun stuff. In 2020 happened. It was January, and it was weird. Gyms were shutting down, and I was like, you know what? I need something else. And like magically on my feed, I started seeing more like trail running and hiking, and it just like started flooding my feed a little bit more. I was like, okay, universe, I see what you're trying to do here. So a dear friend of mine, Alyssa Olenek, Littlest Method, most people, if you follow me, you probably follow her. I reached out, we cut like Instagram friend, became in real life friends. And it's one of the greatest things ever. Thank you, Instagram. So I was like, hey, I want to get into trail running. So I signed up for a trail half marathon in June of 2020, got canceled because of COVID, which I'm not surprised, but I ran it anyway. And then I got the bug. When you do one trail race, you're like, oh, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. Even though training is hard and nitty gritty, you're like, dude, that bug is literally on my shoulder and it's not going anywhere. So I signed up for a 50K. Like 2 weeks later, I was like, cool, it's in my backyard. It's 20 minutes from my house. It's doable. It's not super technical. It's not this big gnarly race, but it's a 50K, which is a lot of distance. So that's 31 miles is the race domain. So it's an ultra marathon for people who are not familiar. An ultra marathon is anything over the marathon distance. It's typically on a trail. So I signed up for one in December, but then I wrecked my mountain bike in July, which kind of put me back, started writing the book with like a psychopath. I know why, and then I had to take some time down. I've been doing physical therapy since July. Just modifying everything I did lifting wise to a lot of single-sided, and I couldn't really squat a barbell, so I had to use kettlebells. I just had to adapt. So me and Alyssa worked on my programming, and I started like true ultra marathon training for the 50K in August, and it was hard. The training, so the 50K was hard. We all know, anyone who runs any sort of race, the race is very challenging. However, the training leading up to it was even more hard because of the time it required and the the physical output. Like I had to make sure I was resting appropriately and eating enough food and making sure I was taking care of my body because it required a lot of me. So the training was hard, but you learn a hell of a lot about yourself when you're on the trail or you're on the road running or biking or whatever it may be for hours on end. Cause I would go out for 4.5 hour runs because I needed to get miles on my feet and time. And you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about pushing thresholds and getting a little uncomfortable because again, that discomfort allows you to push outside of your threshold, getting outside of your comfort zone, which means you're growing. And it translates over like in any, you don't have to run a 50K. You can run a 5K, guys. You can sign up for a powerlifting meet. You can do really anything. Anyone's big thing doesn't have to be a big trail race. That's just mine that I chose because I'm a huge fan of running on dirt and riding my bike on dirt. And that's my favorite thing. But your big thing can be something so different based on what you want and like what your hobbies are. And the hardness comes in with the time leading up to that really big thing. And that's where that growth and that magic happens because you're forced to do things that you don't really want to do, but you have to do it to progress to that really large and scary thing. And then you do it, you're like, done, did it. You're like, now what? Like, what's next? And you forget about all the shenanigans that just happened these last 6 months of leading up to that big thing. And then you just keep doing it over and over again. And the big things become less big because you're doing them more often. So the bigness just changes a little bit. And then you start like, just keep adding to it and adding to your like resume of life. Next thing you know, you're doing these big, awesome things that you never thought you could do a year ago, 2 months ago. If you told me I was going to run a 50K this past December, 2 years ago, I'd have laughed at your face. Like, no way. Like me, I hate running. And then you start doing it and you build that base. And at the beginning, it was really hard. 3 miles was daunting to me. 3 miles sucked. I had to walk, run, but then you get better. You just, with reps, as with anything in life, you get better as a coach. You are probably not a great coach at the beginning because you're so new to all of it. And then as you have years under your belt and you have more clients and more reps, everything becomes more comfortable and you get better at it. And then you just keep growing and developing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think because you were sharing that journey on Instagram so authentically and being like, yeah, like I remember watching your stories and being like, I really don't want to go for this run. And because of here, another quarantine lockdown too, that kind of sparked my interest in getting outside and running as well. And it just coincided with what you were doing. And I really called upon your like, I don't want to run days to get outside for myself on those days. And it's just, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how if you use fitness to do hard things in other areas of your life. Because for me, I recently had this revelation where I'm like, I'm really good at pushing myself and like doing the whole like delayed gratification thing in fitness, but I suck at it or I'm not as good at it and in like career wise and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
do you find you use fitness and the work you do there to support you in other areas of your life?
I do. And I think it can absolutely translate. So for me personally, I'm like, if I can run a 50K, I can do anything. Like that's where I'm at. So that's why I picked that big thing to do. And I'm like, if I can do that, I can do anything in my life, but I have to believe in myself. And just comes with growing a business. Like it's scary putting yourself out there. It's scary with the financial instability because you don't know, you don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks, like with being what I'm doing in coaching. So I do believe that for me personally, I know doing that 50K really helped me just build confidence in myself and know that if I put my head down and I just keep moving forward physically and mentally, that I will get to where I want to be when I'm supposed to be there. So like there's things like growing a business, it's a big slow roll. Like I didn't like hit my groove in every facet of my business until a year and a half, 2 years in. And same thing with running and training. I didn't find my trail magic. I didn't find my runner's high until I was a couple months into training. So same thing, you have to wait. You just have to trust that continuously showing up and doing the work will get you to where you're supposed to be when you're ready to be there. And we want to rush things. We want to like go out and do this 50K right away, or we want to go out and make 100 or 6 figures in our business. Is that possible? Yeah. Hell yeah. I want you to do those things, but you have to do that preliminary work first and trust yourself and build the base, build the reps and build that endurance physically and mentally before you can get there. So I do believe that doing things like trail races and mountain biking and doing all that translates over to my life. And we have to be able to see that versus like, oh, there's no way those coincide. Everything bleeds together. And when I always say, just keep showing up, when you just keep showing up, doing the steadfast work and believing in yourself and putting things in front of you that align with how you want to feel, where you want to be, it will happen. It will end up in this beautiful like end result. But if we just don't keep showing up, then how are we supposed to see like where we're supposed to be in life?
Yeah. And that's like there's a lot of stuff that you kind of have to reconcile when you commit to that path, because it's a hard pill to swallow times when you're like in that mess and you're like, holy crap, I really want to just curl up in a ball and stay under a rock.
Yeah. And there's a time and a place too for rest. I think we need to normalize rest more, because we are in such a fast, quick moving society, and that does help us propel forward and keep our momentum. But recognizing that we'll get there, but sometimes we may need to take a step back and really take that rest day or take a mental health day or whatever it may be to get there. That's equally as important as the work we put in.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved, just kind of going back into what you were saying earlier, when you're doing something that's hard, it's kind of like you alluded to, just readjusting expectations. Like somebody's hard, so like the 50K it might be somebody else's 5K, and that's totally okay. It's just being able to kind of zone into what you want and what you need, and believe in yourself. And I think those are all beautiful messages, and something like having a coach or just listening to the messages you share on social media or in the book, like they all contribute to helping somebody show up, keep showing up, like you said.
Yeah. And I think too, when we have to, as a society, stop comparing ourselves to other people, because we could both be starting, two different people can be starting out businesses, and they just come from different paths, different walks of life, different styles. They're going to progress differently. And if I compare myself, I see Alyssa, I helped pace her for her 100K. She did 100K. I was like, that's incredible. I would love to do that. But if I compared myself like to her, we're completely different human beings. We're built differently. Our engines are different. She's going to run it faster than I am just because she's been running ultras for years. I've ran one. So if we continuously compare ourselves to other people, we're always going to be disappointed because we are not them. And yes, we can aspire to be somewhere, but if we see somebody who has 20, I'm just using this example, 20,000 followers, they're making 100 grand, their business is thriving, and you just started out, no one sees that it took that person 10 years to get there. And we want that, but it's going to take us maybe 10 years to get there. And our paths are going to be so different because we just live different lives. So releasing our grip on, yes, it can be really powerful to aspire to be somewhere and put the work in, but along that journey, it's going to be very uniquely crafted to you, what you put out into the universe, who your following is, what your hobbies are, and where you invest your time and priorities. And like, do you have a family? Are you super busy with like, are you a single mom and trying to run a household and on top of starting a business? I'm just me. I don't have children. I have my husband and my dog. So my free time looks different than someone who has a whole family. So we can't compare ourselves, even though we may have similar mission statements and what we're doing in the nutritionist field. But at the same time, we can't compare because it's like comparing literally apples to oranges. Like it's the simplest example. So stop comparing yourself to people because you have your own unique path ahead of you. And when you take your blinders down and look at other people, that's when you get distracted. So hold the course for what you want and just continue to be authentically you. And don't try and be someone else because you're not them.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. So, okay. I feel like anybody who talks to you is like, I could talk with you forever, but it's such a, it's
Maybe
such,
one day.
right, right.
Yeah.
One day,
One day.
just chill and talk. But, just to wrap things up, I'd kind of love to know right now in this season of your life, because you've been through that 50K, you just moved, you wrote a book, all this stuff's happening in your life. What does it mean to live a healthy life for yourself right now?
For me personally, it has looked different because of different seasons of life. And I have lowered, not in a bad way, but my expectations of what I need to put out. Yes, I have to show up for my clients. I have check-ins every single day. I do my newsletter on Mondays. I post content, but I'm refraining from doing those extra projects because I need to really recharge my battery. Because for me personally, for people who don't know, we just moved in like 1 month from Virginia Beach, where I've been for 25 years, to West Tennessee. So it's been a process with home buying, switching jobs, getting my license here, establishing residency, and I feel some depletion. So I'm recognizing that, and I'm giving myself permission to throttle back a little bit. Yes, I have those things I need to maintain to do every day because it's my business, it is my income, I have my clients I'm showing up for, but I'm giving myself a little bit more grace to move a little bit slower and to make sure I'm keeping those boundaries that I set about cutoff times and just moving really joyfully without having this crazy expectations. I have to work out 5 days a week. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna lift a couple days a week in my garage with some dumbbells and kettlebells just to get it flowing. I'm gonna go on walks and just remember that I have to fill my cup back up and keep my cup full self-care wise in order to keep showing up for all of the humans in my life, because my job does require a lot of emotional stimulation because of what I do and the amount of time and passion I put into my job. I can't just like check boxes and keep going. I literally have these people's livelihoods in my heart and on my shoulders, and I have to make sure I keep creating a space for them. And then later down the road, when I'm feeling like I'm fully battery charged, I can keep working on projects and continuing to grow.
I love that. And I just want to take a moment to recognize and also thank you for committing to that personal development and filling your cup, because that does take a lot of energy, and it is work in itself, but the reward of it is so beautiful, but it does take a lot of work. So thank you for that. So you can keep creating so much great content for everybody and supporting your clients.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for thanking me.
Yeah.
I think there's this hustle hard all the time mentality. You cannot do that. Like you physically cannot do that. And I know if I did that, I wouldn't be putting my best content out, because my goal is to just help shift the world and just change the way we talk about our bodies and movement and hard things and food. And I can't do that to my fullest capacity if I'm running on E. And again, normalizing rest and normalizing setting boundaries of cutoff times for me, of when I stop taking client emails or text messages, and when I get online to work. And in business owning, it's hard because I am the business. This is just me. I do everything. And it's hard because you just want to keep going, getting ahead and doing things. But like that stuff doesn't require to be touched until April. So I'm going to let it sit there until April. Instead of trying to get it done, I got to focus on my humans now and focus on myself. And two, so I can show up for my husband and show up for my friends and to be able to do the things that I want to do. So
yeah, exactly. Love it. So how can people, or how would you like people to find you and just like get in touch with you and all the good stuff like that?
So primary Instagram, I'm literally on it all the time. I'm sharing pictures of my dog, food, trail things, body image, like you name it. And everything is on there through Instagram, Bethany Cora Taylor. And I'm sure you'll plug that in wherever in the show notes.
Yeah.
So I am on there. I have my website, but don't worry about that because everything's on Instagram. I don't even know I have a website. It's silly. Just go on Instagram and find me there. A ton of guide resources, scroll back through everything. There's a ton of information in there, and I want it to live there for y'all as resources to just take with you forever.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And like you said, I will put that in like the description of this video so people can, you know, if you're watching this right now, go check that out. And yeah, thank you again so much for being on this call with me. I loved it. It was a long time coming, but it happened.
We finally got it done and we figured the time zone out. So
Yes.
thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to just get this in everyone's ears.
Yeah, me too. And for those watching, just remember to stay curious, stay compassionate, and stay courageous. Bye.
See ya.